Hello. What's happening? Welcome to the show today. Let people get tuned in. Good to see everybody here. Already here on D Live. I have some good topics to discuss today, including transhumanism. We've been talking about evil AI. And we've been talking a little bit about transhumanism. Going to talk about that. Geoengineering as well today. And the man in the title, Alan Dershowitz, who I've been trying to expose for a long time. Finally, somebody wrote the piece on him. Now he's news. So I'm going to go through the Dershowitz accusations from Virginia Roberts' affidavit. So I'm going to go over those details and tell you a little bit more about the history of the man, Alan Dershowitz. Good to see you, R. Thanks for the Ninja Guinea. The article on Dershowitz is really long. It takes a while to get through. Very thorough. I'm only going to read you a little bit of it, though. Remember, this show is not live on YouTube, but I have been playing the replays. We're live on DLive at 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time, daily. We take calls about an hour to an hour and a half into the show if you ever want to join. The show's available as of late on YouTube later, but replays are also available on DLive and Twitch. There's an app for that, in case you're wondering, for everything that I'm on, including podcasts. We're trying to separate from YouTube. We're going to give you a little bit of YouTube news, actually, to start this off. But we are trying to separate from YouTube. That's why we weren't even there at all for a while. But we're trying to still get as many people over to alternative platforms as possible. Ever since they disappeared me. So let me get comfortable. White magic. All right. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm your host, Nathan Stoltman. We still have a sponsor for the show besides Lino and a mysterious pirate. That sponsor, if you would please take a look at the website just to see what we've done. This is a real company called Truth Revolution Clothing. Let me turn down the music so you can get the advertisement. Truth Revolution Clothing at truthclothing.io. We created the whole thing. We got the website, the shop. It's not Teespring, which brings you digitally printed shirts that take a couple weeks to arrive. These are screen printed here in California. We choose each shirt to make sure it's something we would wear ourselves, and I do wear them every day. So check out truthclothing.io. Pick up a Truth Matters t-shirt and the Fed, question everything. Pick up one of our logo tees, and we have women's styles too. Really nice ones. I'm wearing our decentralized t-shirt today, which I wear every time I want cryptocurrency to go up. truthclothing.io, free shipping over $50. Thanks for visiting that site, and thanks everybody who supports the show. I have a little news about YouTube that I wanted to start out with. Now that we've given people a chance to tune in. This is old news right here about YouTube drafting, but I don't know if you've seen it yet. YouTube is drafting creator-on-creator harassment rules after the Steven Crowder incident. No details were given as to what that means, but it was something that they talked about in a statement. YouTube working on new policies to prevent creator-on-creator harassment that it will announce later this year. The chief product officer, Neil Mohan, talked about it at YouTube's VidCon keynote. Creator-on-creator harassment doesn't have a clear definition, but Mohan's announcement comes after a series of incidents that fall under the description, one of them being Steven Crowder's quote-unquote homophobic language against Carlos Maza. So the only thing about it is people's channels are built entirely on harassing other creators. So it seems to me like you take down a significant portion of YouTube by drafting these particular rules. So, just another way to take down YouTube creators. Although, I could use it in my favor, as I am frequently harassed by other channels. But I've never targeted them. I've never targeted anyone with gay ops. I had a caller call in yesterday. Yesterday we had a popular episode about gang stalking. People really like to talk about gang stalking, and I get calls and emails whenever we talk about gang stalking. And he said that I should do a special on it, and that he didn't even know what gay ops were. Gay ops is what Carlos Maza did. He happens to also be gay, but what he did against Crowder was a gay op. He tried to get him shut down, tried to get him taken off YouTube just because he said something he didn't like. And the use of gay ops is pretty common. We've seen it. Jason Goodman is well known for gay ops, trying to get people fired from their jobs. Those are all gay ops. Those aren't cool. You can do other things, but gay ops are considered like hitting below the belt. Although people don't really have morals. People have no morals when it comes to YouTube, and going after people they don't like. Psychopathic behavior happens on the internet all the time. Perhaps influenced by demons is what we're learning. Anyway, we'll see what comes of that. I saw this article about altering the YouTube algorithm, because the algorithm is what's to blame for everything. Everybody says, it's the algorithm that's radicalizing people. Like that guy that had the New York Times article written about him, who was radicalized into alt-right beliefs, then had become unradicalized. Or Baked Alaska, who was radicalized. He didn't blame the algorithm, but often that's exactly the target. They wouldn't want anybody to be exposed to certain kinds of information. Apparently, this channel is one of those that presents information that they don't want new people exposed to. But there are a number of channels which they've done that to, through possibly manipulation of the algorithm. They use the algorithm to go after specific points of view. Anyway, here's an article with a picture of Bill Nye saying most YouTube climate change videos oppose the consensus view, and that scientists behind the study urges the platform to tweak algorithms to prioritize factual information. They say they don't want to censor anybody. They just want to tweak the algorithm to prioritize factual information. They analyzed 200 videos based on a number of topics, including chemtrails, climate change, climate engineering, climate hacking, climate manipulation, climate modification, climate science, geoengineering, global warming. And they found that videos about global warming, out of 200 videos, 120 went against the consensus view. 120 out of 200. More than 50%, in other words. This angers these worshippers of science. And it's dangerous, of course, for people to be exposed to this information, because it's not enough simply for someone else to be able to challenge these falsehoods, this fake news, with real information. They have to actually silence the other side of the argument, even though the overwhelming scientific consensus is on their side. So they should have the easiest argument based on facts, documentation. They find themselves losing the argument, and for that reason have to censor the opposing point of view. It's the case with the so-called flat Earth, where you can't be exposed to anything that says the Earth is flat, which sounds insane to most people, when there's lots of evidence people will point to, including alleged pictures from outer space, our alleged landing on the moon. You can't even talk about the flat Earth, even though you'd think that guys like Bill Nye could come out there and just debunk whatever crazy theory you have. Those are banned on YouTube. So climate change could be next. You start with flat Earth, and then you go, oh, these are climate change deniers. They're like flat earthers, basically. Must relegate them to their flat Earth ghetto. Let me play you a video. I heard about this because I was listening to RT. Here's a little piece from RT about that and about a debate about whether you should have free expression of ideas or not.
YouTube's again under scrutiny. Scientists are urging it to address misinformation being posted about climate change. So after a study out analysed hundreds of YouTube videos on the subject, it revealed that the majority of clips opposed mainstream scientific findings on the climate, with many promoting conspiracy theories. But for its part, YouTube insists it's just open to all views as long as they don't violate its rules. We asked social and political commentators Noah Answer and Nancy Bryan Logan what they thought about it.
These people at YouTube and other places, they're being told by specific people to say, hey, we don't want to have this kind of view on the website. I need you to kind of filter that out in favor of this over here. This is if you're going to have freedom of religion, freedom of speech, let's let that be the case for all religion and all speech, as long as it's not illegal, as long as I'm not making a terroristic threat or something like that, then I should be able to.
Can I just cut in and say, how is it that this fight against freedom of speech, is it a misinterpretation of freedom of speech? Because what he's saying, and I don't know this guy's name, I know he's on RT often, and I know that he's a right-wing commentator on YouTube. He says we're for free speech. That shouldn't be controversial, because that's, the First Amendment to our Constitution, guaranteeing freedom of speech. And these people talk out of both sides of their mouth. These people that want censorship, they say we should have freedom of speech or freedom of ideas, but you can't have fake news. People should be able to have whatever opinions they want or express themselves, but not stuff that's not true, not stuff that's not accepted as fact. It's the most American thing to support that, and it's un-American to want to restrict speech. I think this guy's a foreigner who he's talking to.
That is a bizarre concept. The important thing is this. You are advocating some kind of mythical unicorn about free speech on the internet. Now, what we've seen with Cambridge Analytica, with Cambridge laboratories, which was run by Bannon and Banks and the far right, that have burgeoned and risen across Europe and the West, that false news is out there, propaganda is out there. Joseph Goebbels would be having a field day right now, okay?
Oh, what kind of false news are you talking about that's coming from the so-called far right? I don't understand.
There is, right, you come from a cultural perspective where you believe that freedom of speech is an absolute right. Even if it's patently absurd, you believe that those things that should be allowed to get out there.
Who's to decide what's absurd and what's not absurd? Is it you? Are you the grand arbiter of what is absurd and what is not absurd? Who's to decide that?
Yeah,
is it
today,
you?
Today I am. Yeah, today I am.
So today
I am,
so you are the guy that I got to go to and say, hey,
Anthony,
is this speech absurd or not? After I talk to you about that?
Anthony, why don't you listen? 2 ears, 1 mouth, and you'll understand more that way, with all due respect. Look, algorithms are being used currently on the internet. They are being used to deal with hate speech, terrorism. We have things like suicide clubs and things that have been setting up on a number of different social media platforms. We have real problems in society, and the first things people need is access to rigorously tested, understood and accepted scientific data and information that is correct. I just wanted to tackle
rigorously tested, understood, and accepted scientific data. And we're supposed to have an algorithm figure that out. You can't figure it out with an algorithm. It's just like they can't filter our channels with an algorithm, not the way they do. It ends up not being an algorithm. It ends up being a person that puts your channel on a list where your channel is hidden. There's no other way that they could do it. It doesn't end up being an algorithm. They end up having to pick and choose because you can't figure it out. An algorithm can't figure out the truth or context. It would end up censoring pro climate change videos as much as climate change videos that go against the accepted doctrine. People need access to tested scientific data, tested scientific accepted data. And he says he can, on this day where he's being where he's talking, this guy says that he can be the arbiter of truth.
The idea that it's not a level playing field. This is in the pockets of the rich, the well-funded, and those who control and pull the media and internet strings.
I agree with that. He's got that right. That's where these guys can't figure it out. He says it's in the control of these conglomerates. So they're the ones that have to do the censorship, the weeding out of the fake news.
Focus on facts, not so much about opinion and how you feel about faith and how you feel about certain things that affect you. Let's focus on facts, and then we can have an open space for opinion. Let's not mix our feelings into what opinion is and try to regulate things that way. Have facts be facts, but also have room for opinion, regardless of whether you agree or disagree. That should be how we go forward.
I can challenge myths, misconceptions. I can speak free. Nobody censors me and nobody controls me. We need to let free public speech rage. But we do need to come to some conclusions, and stopping the flow of false information and false facts, whatever the topic area.
That's where he says something. He actually starts out by saying, I can say whatever I want. I can say whatever I want. I can have whatever opinions I want. But we must stop false news.
Regardless of whether you agree or disagree, that should be how we go forward.
I can challenge myths, misconceptions. I can speak free. Nobody censors me and nobody controls me. We need to let free public speech rage. But we do need to come to some conclusions, and stopping the flow of false information and false facts, whatever the topic area.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's so crazy. Oh man, people won't be able to express their opinions. You can't say you don't think people should get vaccines, even if that's an opinion. You can't say that. Dangerous to public health. talk about vaccines. Anyway, we've been ghosted on YouTube. We have no way to challenge that, even though it's entirely obvious that there's something wrong with my channel, because when you search for it, no videos come up from the channel or from anybody talking about the channel or interviewing me or anything. There's nothing. So I should have, there should be a way to challenge that, because it's not the way it's supposed to be. But I don't have any way. I could tell them. I didn't even bother contacting them because I know what it's like contacting YouTube. It would be like trying to talk to it would be like trying to talk to Doshi right now about, and if Doshi had like an AI bot that could reply to emails. I would email Doshi right now. He'd stay exactly the same as he is. And then an AI bot would get back to me and try to frustrate me. And try to frustrate me into submission, basically. Same experience as talking to YouTube. And it doesn't matter how big your channel is, actually. Eventually you get to be able to chat with a robot in India. Eventually, once you get enough subscribers, they let you do that. But either way, you get a non-human response, not a transhuman response, a totally inhuman response, even if it is from a real person. They just use copy and paste. And then they mess with your head, so you don't ever want to contact them again. That's YouTube. So, what's the answer? Should I join a union? This is a article from yesterday. Today's July 30th, 2019. It's a Tuesday in America right now. YouTubers are unionizing, and the site has 24 days to respond. Content creators want the platform to be more clear about the rules. It says a group of YouTubers is teaming up with Europe's largest trade union to lobby for greater transparency. Until recently, the YouTubers Union was a community group with little power of its own, but it is now teamed up with IG Metall, the German metalworkers union. IG Metall is one of the oldest unions in Germany, and over its lifetime has expanded to cover workers in industries including electrical engineering, IT, plastics, and textiles. The union was formed last year. This is the guy that runs it, and he's starting something called FairTube. This is from the video telling YouTube that they now only have a certain amount of time to respond and answer questions. Be more transparent. Talk about why people get shadow banned. Talk about why videos get demonetized. Here, I'll play from this guy. You can listen.
Attention YouTube, here we go. Being a YouTuber is a dream job for lots of young people. But 2 years ago, YouTube turned the dream job into a nightmare. The real YouTubers, that are the reason for YouTube's big success, are getting censored, deleted, erased, and hidden. Making a living on YouTube is actually no longer possible. Many channels have entirely disappeared or are now reduced to a minimum.
He actually said, I'm curious about this. He said making a living on YouTube is no longer possible. I can state that categorically for myself, that that's the case, which is why, I had to make a drastic change to the entire show, how it's presented. I had to get off the platform, get people over to another platform, because YouTube, it was never going to be sustainable for me. It wasn't, not with the direction it went. There was a short period of time when I was getting views and was monetized, when if things had continued to grow, I could see it being sustainable possibly in the future. But then it just took a turn backwards. And even at that point, so I'm curious, he actually said it's no longer possible to make a living on YouTube. So, I mean, that would be including everybody, even people who already have 1 million subscribers. I'm not sure, but I know people must be people who came to rely on their income from YouTube. And I I never got significant money from monetization, but people who did, who got hit with all the different sweeps of demonetization, some channels completely demonetized forever, like No More News, like Red Ice TV, like Red Elephant, and several more channels. Had to be just devastating to their income. I mean, I've seen video of YouTubers crying over what they've done. But I'm curious if what he's saying is correct, that no independent YouTuber. You know what? I think Tim Pool breaks that rule, and so do a number of other YouTubers. There are people who are doing pretty well. Dave Rubin, Tim Pool, Joe Rogan, obviously, Jimmy Dore. There are a number of examples of people that are certainly deriving plenty for their income from YouTube. But it feels like, if definitely a new creator, I don't even know what I'd do if it was starting out. I'd say don't even try. Try a different platform. If somebody was starting out, I'd tell them to learn how to live stream and go on DLive. At this point, I think you'd have more success and a better chance for growing your audience on DLive than YouTube. I don't think YouTube, well, if you want to talk about anything even mildly controversial, unless you're a transgender makeup artist, and then sky's the limit, really. You just have to be the right character type. They write articles about this transgender, I was going to say transgender dude, but that's politically incorrect. Transgender girl, female. Have you ever asked, this is kind of a side topic, remind me to get back to it. But if you're a transgender YouTuber, or you're gay and you do makeup, or there are a few other categories, then don't walk to your nearest video editor and start putting out content. And the gayer the better, I would say. Then you can have a career on YouTube. Anyway, I'll play more of this.
Are getting censored, deleted, erased, and hidden. Making a living on YouTube is actually no longer possible. Many channels have entirely disappeared or are now reduced to a minimum. There is no job security. It seems like YouTube doesn't want independent YouTubers anymore, because now YouTube prefers channels run by TV stations or Hollywood celebrities, and for those guys, completely different rules apply. They won't be censored, they won't be erased, they won't be kicked out. YouTube is actually pushing these guys with everything they have. All this happens simply out of greed for profit, simply because advertisers prefer Will Smith over the independent YouTuber. But YouTube should not be so sure about that strategy. Since 1 year, we have the YouTubers Union, and we have thousands of YouTubers that are now united and picked up the fight. The only problem is that so far we haven't been able to achieve much, but exactly that is going to change now. IG Metall, the largest independent trade union on the planet, and the YouTubers Union are now joining forces with a clear goal to bring back the old YouTube. We have founded the joint venture FairTube, and now time will change for YouTube, since we have 125 years of experience in the fight against injustice, and over 2 million members, plus superb lawyers, are now joining forces with thousands of YouTubers who are really unhappy with the way things go. Together, I think we are completely unbeatable. FairTube is unbeatable. We want YouTube to actually perform massive changes on their strategy for the benefit of the creators and for the benefit of the entire platform. And in this video, we're going to explain to you how we will achieve it. And at the same time, we ask...
All right. Good. It's even good with a German accent. He's got something called FairTube. I'll show you. It's, great, good on you. I appreciate people pushing for. FairTube is a campaign to get more fairness and transparency for all YouTube creators. And their proposals are to publish all categories and decision criteria that affect monetization and views of videos. Give clear explanations for individual decisions. For example, if a video is demonetized, which parts of the video violated which criteria in the advertiser-friendly content guidelines. Give YouTubers a human contact person who is qualified and authorized to explain decisions and have negative consequences for YouTubers and fix them if they're mistaken. Let YouTubers contest decisions that have negative consequences. Create an independent mediation board for resolving disputes. And formal participation of YouTubers in important decisions. For example, through a YouTuber advisory board. All really great ideas. They're teamed up with a big union, big metal workers union in Germany. The EU is a little bit more serious about going after these American companies. So maybe that's why a European Union got behind him. I guess they got behind this German creator. So somehow it must have been related to that. So is it hope? I don't know. Well, I've been told I should stay on YouTube, and that's why I've been publishing stuff there still. But because one day it might get better. That's what I'm told. One day it might get better. I don't think it's going to get better for my channel, but that's all right. That's all right. We'll keep feeding the beast just for the greater good. All right. So that's the full YouTube update. So let's get into Alan Dershowitz. Big expose. I imagine after this article, because I saw people tweeting out about it, it's extremely in-depth article, which covers Alan Dershowitz from start to finish, and also has good information about the Epstein case. It's really in-depth, like I said. The top of the article is way up here. It's called Alan Dershowitz, Devil's Advocate, and I suggest by Connie Bruck. And it shows him in a cartoon picture with holding the balance, the scales of justice, and a sword. He's got OJ hugging him. He's got Epstein giving him a hug. He's got Mike Tyson giving him a hug. I think that's Donald Trump peeking out in the background. Though I guess that's because Dershowitz has been a defender of Donald Trump. Still appears on all kinds of shows, as this article points out. All right. You should check it out. It's in the New Yorker. If you're really interested in getting into details and finding out more about who Dershowitz was. He grew up in an Orthodox Jewish family. Some of his controversial clients include Klaus Van Bülow, O.J. Simpson, Mike Tyson, and of course Jeffrey Epstein. And that's why this article came about, because of his connections to the Jeffrey Epstein case, including being openly accused by two survivors, Sarah Ransom and Virginia Roberts Giuffre. Both said that they were trafficked to Alan Dershowitz for sex, that they were told by Jeffrey Epstein to have sex with Alan Dershowitz. Virginia Roberts may or may not have been underage at the time. There's actually a little bit of an update, I believe, that this article makes clear that Virginia Roberts was older than she thought she was, or than she remembered she was, when she was first recruited and when she was being trafficked. So that's kind of something I picked up from this article, is that she had said, and I believe she maybe says in this affidavit, that she was recruited from Mar-a-Lago when she was 15, and I'm reading or learning that actually was at the age of 17. Thanks, Jeff Brady, for the diamond, and thanks, R, for the Ninjagini. So, is that important? Well, it is important in the sense that you might not have Alan Dershowitz, we don't know for sure if she was underage at the time. This other person who says they had sex with Alan Dershowitz was also not underage at the time, but was still being trafficked. So, and whether Alan Dershowitz did anything wrong or believes he did anything wrong by having sex with these two women, allegedly, which he denies strenuously, but even if he had done it, which, evidence I believe suggests that he did, he wouldn't think it was wrong based on his own beliefs and things that he's written, which I think is one of the most interesting parts of the article, stuff I didn't know. How he feels about prostitution, how he feels about statutory rape, and the age of consent. So I'm going to read to you from that part of the article where he talks about how he feels. He's very anti-feminist and built a lot of his career around defending accused rapists or accused murderers who are accused of murdering their wife, for example. Sorry, I just have to scroll through this article. He did go after feminism. He's also a supporter of BDS, an antagonist to the BDS movement. And I have a debate where he's defending that point of view. Here, this is what he said in writing. In an op-ed in the Los Angeles Times, he argued against statutory rape laws, writing, quote, "There must be criminal sanctions against sex with very young children, but it is doubtful whether such sanctions should apply to teenagers above the age of puberty, since voluntary sex is so common in their age group," unquote. He said, again, "But it is doubtful whether such sanctions should apply to teenagers above the age of puberty, since voluntary sex is so common in their age group," unquote. He suggested, this is from the article, he suggested that 15 was a reasonable age of consent, no matter how old the partner was. This is allowed to be expressed by him without everybody universally saying it's terrible, because he's expressing it as a legal opinion. And he suggests that it's on the side of individual liberties, which is what he claims to argue for, individual liberties. From the article, he has also argued against punishing men who hire prostitutes. In a 1985 article in the Gainesville Sun, Dershowitz proposed that a John, quote, "who occasionally seeks to taste the forbidden fruit," I can't believe he wrote this. In an article in the Gainesville Sun, he wrote, John, quote, "who occasionally seeks to taste the forbidden fruit of sex for hire," unquote, should not be arrested. However, he said, according to a student in one of his classes, he said, quote, "prostitutes know what they're doing. They should be prosecuted, but you shouldn't ruin the John's life over that," unquote. So in other words, he says that it should be okay to have sex with anyone over the age of puberty, and suggested, I guess, that the age of 15 was a reasonable age for that. Believes that men shouldn't be prosecuted for engaging in prostitution or hiring a prostitute. However, which I think is a fair stance, by the way, I don't think they should either, as long as it's consensual. From a libertarian point of view and everything, I think prostitution should be legal. But it's insane that he says that men should be able to do it and that the women should be prosecuted because they, quote, "know what they're doing." And he basically says that this is from a shocking interview with a local ABC station, WPLG Local 10. I first showed it when it came out earlier this year. This was published April 17th, where he talks about Virginia Roberts Giuffre, who has sued him now for defamation, and he's facing that suit. In addition to what's going on with the Epstein case, this is totally separate. That Virginia Giuffre, who claims that she's had sex with him several times in specific details, which I'll go over with you. This was how he responded, and one of the reasons that he's been saying stuff like this already, and that's one of the reasons that he's being sued for defamatory statements.
Today.
She's an admitted prostitute. She's a serial liar.
Attorney Alan Dershowitz today lashed out at his accuser, Virginia Roberts, who swore in a new affidavit that he had sex with her while she was an underage, quote, sex slave of wealthy Palm Beach financier Jeffrey Epstein.
She's lied.
But she wasn't lying about being sexually abused by Jeffrey Epstein as a minor, correct?
That is between her and Jeffrey Epstein.
Roberts, one of dozens of underage girls allegedly recruited by convicted sex offender Epstein, also released new photos, including this one she says was taken by Epstein when she was about 15. In the new affidavit, she claims Dershowitz had sex with her 6 times at Epstein's residences, as well as on his jet and private island, and swore to seeming new details regarding alleged sex with Prince Andrew at Epstein's order when she was 17. The two are photographed here in London.
I can tell you she is still a prostitute. She is selling false stories now for money about me.
Do you have any concern calling her a prostitute when she was victimized at such a young age by this wealthy man?
She was not victimized. She made her own decisions in life.
But at the age of 15, some would say that's a little young and that she was taken advantage of.
I'm talking about the age of 19. Look, that's
He said he's talking about the age of 19. He said he's talking about the age of 19. So he knows when he's accused of having sex with her. He said, I'm talking about the age of 19. Well, she was still trafficked. It was still coerced. Coerced prostitution is still trafficking, and that's still wrong. In any case, he doesn't want his wife to think that he had sex outside of his marriage either. He claims that he has a perfect sex life, and he's only had sex with one woman since he got married to his current wife. He got a massage. Oh, he explains it here, I think. His ridiculous story about the massage he never got, in which, I did get a massage from a 50-year-old woman named Olga, and I kept my underwear on. So what he said. You can't even write comedy better than that.
Her and the federal government and the people that she claims victimized her.
Dershowitz is a longtime friend of Epstein's who represented him in the criminal underage sex case.
Could you please? I never saw a young underage woman.
Yet Epstein's former butler swore under oath that Dershowitz was at Epstein's residences at the same time underage girls were there.
Were there young women in another part of the house giving massages when I wasn't around? I have no idea of that.
Dershowitz did say he once received a massage at Epstein's mansion, but from an adult woman.
I kept my underwear on during the massage. I don't like massages particularly.
And then
Bob Norman.
He also doesn't even like massages. I mean, he has to go all the way with it. The article presents him as a bit of a maniac. It even suggests that Epstein once sent one of his friends an email saying that Dershowitz was a madman, I believe is the quote he used, because the things he said in public about this case, about Virginia Roberts in particular. But now there is another person, Sarah Ransom from Australia, I believe, who is also claiming that Dershowitz had sex with her, that she was trafficked for sex. Her, I believe, at the age of 22. In any case, I was reading from this affidavit yesterday, I believe, about when I was talking about Jean-Luc Brunel. I think that was yesterday. And there are other details in here as well, as far as co-conspirators or other people, at least, that Virginia was either trafficked to or had some form of coerced sexual contact or contact against her will. Maxwell, Dershowitz, Prince Andrew are all named, and Jean-Luc Brunel. So those those four names in specific end up in this affidavit, which I believe was related to a defamation suit. Here's where it starts in the affidavit. It says, Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz. This is written in the voice of Virginia Roberts Giuffre. Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz was around Epstein frequently. Dershowitz was so comfortable with the sex that was going on that he would even come and chat with Epstein while I was giving oral sex to Epstein. I had sexual intercourse with Dershowitz at least 6 times. The first was when I was about 16, early on in my servitude to Epstein, and it continued until I was 19. The first time we had sex took place in New York in Epstein's home. It was in Epstein's room, not the massage room. I was approximately 16 years old at the time. So I have to start checking the facts on this, because I'm not sure if this is a new fact revealed by this article, but it suggested that she wasn't recruited until she was 17. So could be that Virginia had her memory incorrect. I have to review this article and see if that's exactly what it reveals. I might be going from memory. You can never say I'm 100% correct, but I believe that is something I was reading. So we'll have to double check and verify that information and get back to you on it. Anyway, her claim is in this affidavit from 2015. She said, I had sexual intercourse with Dershowitz at least 6 times. The first time when I was about 16, early on in my servitude to Epstein, and it continued until I was 19. The first time we had sex took place in New York in Epstein's home. It was in Epstein's room. I was approximately 16 years old at the time. I called Dershowitz Alan. I knew he was a famous professor. The second time that I had sex with Dershowitz was at Epstein's house in Palm Beach. During this encounter, Dershowitz instructed me to both perform oral sex and have sexual intercourse. I also had sex with Dershowitz at Epstein's Zorro Ranch in New Mexico in the massage room off of the indoor pool area, which was still being painted. We also had sex at Little St. James Island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. I was asked to give Dershowitz a massage on the beach. Dershowitz then asked me to take him somewhere more private, where we proceeded to have intercourse. Another sexual encounter between me and Dershowitz happened on Epstein's airplane. Another girl was present on the plane with us. I have recently seen a former Harvard Law professor identified as Alan Dershowitz on television calling me a liar. He is lying by denying that he had sex with me. That man is the same man that I had sex with at least 6 times. Alan Dershowitz, introducing Alan Dershowitz. So I've taken personal exception to the fact that he's continued to be featured, particularly in the independent and right-wing news, when these accusations have been out there for some time, and they've been public since at least 2015, and people still continue to work with him. I hope after the publication of this article that people won't give him a platform anymore, based on what it seems like he's probably done, based on a credible witness who's already been proven correct several times and has received settlements that suggest that. Okay? That's the news about Alan Dershowitz. Now, transhumanism, AI, and geoengineering. let's get started. We've been talking a little bit about transhumanism here because of the Elon Musk talking about Neuralink, which is obviously transhumanism, plugging in, putting wires directly into the brain to stimulate neurons to create the desired effect, whatever that might be. Elon Musk was talking about that as if that's just a thing that we're going to be accepting, that's going to be happening. This publication called Quartz, I noticed this article popped up right around the same time as that Neuralink presentation. This is from July 15th. It's called Why I'm Turning My Son into a Cyborg, and it's not a spoof. It's a real article where this neuroscientist says she's having her autistic son combined with artificial intelligence to make him have what she calls superpowers. Namely, the cyborg that she's talking about is not a direct interface with his brain, but she talks about a desire for a direct interface with his brain. For now, it's something that tells him, like through a Google Glass, it reads people's emotions for him. He's got autism, so it reads people's emotions and it'll tell him, I guess. And he can read them and say, oh, okay, now I understand. Because autists have trouble identifying emotions on people, and that's one of the reasons that they struggle with relationships and interactions and so forth. So, noble goal, is it that bad? I think he's got to wear the prototype is like a backpack hooked up to the Google Glass. Why I'm turning my son into a cyborg, no joke. So we were looking at that. We were looking at the Neuralink thing. Then this news came up in my news feed saying the Vatican is right now, yesterday, hosting a conference on transhumanism. Here's the announcement. This is from globenewswire.com. Humanity 2.0 to host authors of the Transhuman Code and Artificial Humanity for a meeting of the minds at the Vatican, July 29th, 2019. Humanity 2.0, and this is written from Vatican City, Rome. Humanity 2.0, a nonprofit human progress accelerator and social impact initiative focused on human flourishing with the support of the Pontifical Lateran University at the Vatican, announces this forum, Technology and Human Flourishing. And this Humanity 2.0 is connected to part of the Vatican called the Dicastery for, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, for promoting integral human development at the Holy See. The Dicastery for promoting integral human development at the Holy See is combined with Humanity 2.0 to bring together what they call a consortium of leaders and luminaries, but that's including religious leaders. So we have the Vatican having a special group focused on transhumanism, the evolution of the human race. What, you could call the evolution. Here's a video for this Dicastery for promoting integral human development, which is about transhumanism. Look at the way it's packaged and see if you can figure out that this promotional video has to do with combining humans and machines. See if they're what the clues are, or if you would have figured it out. Oh, shoot. I'd have to start from the beginning for that to work better. Catholics.
Every human person has dignity, something that doesn't come from a government or a decision of court or anything. It's from the fact that we created in the image and likeness of God.
Y esta sesión se encarga justamente de la atención con las personas, con los enfermos, con los necesitados, con las personas marginadas, con las personas víctimas de conflictos de guerra, de desastres naturales.
For people listening on the podcast, we have subtitles here. She's talking about helping out disadvantaged people, people from the armed forces, people who suffer from natural disasters. It's a person dressed in a sisterhood outfit of some sort, you know, like a sister, a nun. Very nice person, talking about helping people.
Las personas que sufren, encarcelados, víctimas de la esclavitud o personas que están en dificultad.
And so what our business, therefore, is just to make every person realize his dignity, that he has this special endowment that came from God himself.
If you blink, you missed it.
Y el hombre de hoy necesita una respuesta que sea capaz de responder a sus anhelos más profundos. Pero la Iglesia habla de un desarrollo humano integral, o sea, en todas sus dimensiones, bio, psico, espiritual, considerada en su llamado a la trascendencia.
Transcendence, she says. And they showed two, if you blink, you missed it. One picture of a person with a robotic arm and one picture of a person interacting with a robotic arm, and then the mention of transcendence, transcending this human, this limited human state into this new futuristic transhuman state where we're assisted by AI in real time. One of the things 5G allows for might be the reason they want it so bad, because it's way faster than it has to be. 5G, that's one thing. People could really object to it and just say, why? You know, the internet loads pretty fast. We can watch our videos in 1080p. You know, we can make, you know, 4G a little bit better and we'd all be pretty happy, you know, better coverage and stuff. Just, we don't really need these insane speeds that are orders of magnitude bigger than the speeds now, because, you know, like I said, we're getting what we want at this point. You know, it'll be just so you can watch 4K video on your cell phone screen. That's not enough reason. The reason, well, what it would allow, whether or not it's the reason for it, is interaction with powerful AI in real time. AI that wouldn't be capable of just running on your phone because of the instantaneous communication back and forth between the cloud. You know, you could interact in real time, you know, with something evaluating your environment, evaluating things in front of you. You can combine it with something like Google Glass or the phone and your camera to do just that, to interact with humans. That'll be a type of transhumanism. Now, I'm going to talk to you already. One of these stories is already about AI. Excuse me. AI outperforming humans. So we're right at the precipice of people starting to do this crap. And you can tell because that lady's already doing it with her son. We're right there. Here's another article promoting transhumanism in this same publication called Quartz. Called Rich People Shouldn't Be the Only Ones Who Get to Live Forever. And the anti-aging movement is a transhumanist movement. It says it's written by Zoltan Istvan, who is a transhumanist. This is from today. Rich people shouldn't be the only ones who get to live forever. And it shows a skeleton of a robot with a very human-looking head on top, which is not human, which appears to be robotic, and is wearing some kind of safety glasses. Kind of creepy looking when you think about it. It's a disembodied head. This person thinks people should live forever, and as part of their goal, this person's original proposal, designed later with the help of Max Moore, Natasha Vita-Moore, James Stroll, and Bernardine, was called the Longevity Peace Prize. It would award a one-time $5 million prize to a person or a group who convinces a government to publicly classify aging as a disease. $5 million to any person or group who can convince a government to classify aging as a disease. Think about that. That is not, this is, well, it certainly calls into question the nature of whether humans are properly made already for this universe, whether what happens to us, we're born, we age, we die, is actually not the way things should be, that we actually should not age, and that we should live forever, actually. And it's just that it's an unfortunate accident, just like everything in, with the theory of evolution and the theory of the Big Bang, and that because of those things, we're just random in any case. So why not improve on what the lack of God, right? It has a complete lack of faith in a higher power, I believe. I believe that's necessary to go down this path where you actually say that aging is wrong. But there are a lot of people that want to live forever. It's definitely a debate people can have. It's interesting that the Catholic Church, who you'd think would be against messing around with humanity, given that I believe Jesus would say that God made us perfect. And even if we accept the theory of evolution completely, we should think that we've evolved to live perfectly within this thing we call Earth, within this universe. We've adapted for what, billions of years, millions of years, to live in this environment. But we think that we know better, and we know the way things should go. That would be better if we live forever. Well, it's a debate people can have. Hard to believe the church is behind it, though, huh? Well, okay, so the AI is taking over already. This is an article from today, from Ad Age, saying Chase commits to AI after machines outperform humans in copywriting trials. Bank has entered a 5-year deal with an AI partner to help create marketing language across platforms. This is an article about artificial intelligence writing advertisements and doing it much better than people. So they're just going to have AI write the ads now. I'm serious. So creative. So this is a creative thing. Next it'll be AI writing greeting cards. It's about the same thing. I bet, you know what? Considering the greeting cards I see at the grocery store and other places, I would welcome the AI. Actually, considering what I see on greeting cards, it actually makes me depressed. So maybe AI would do better at that. But they give an example of how this AI is better at writing ads. Chase says that ads created by Persado's machine learning perform better than ads written by humans, with a higher percent of customers clicking on them, more than twice as many in some cases. The difference can be as simple as what word choice resonates with consumers. One digital ad written by humans read, quote, access cash from the equity in your home, unquote. However, Persado's AI version said, quote, it's true, you can unlock cash from the equity in your home, unquote. And that performed better with customers. The chief marketing officer at JP Morgan Chase said that machine learning can actually help achieve more humanity in marketing. AI can achieve more humanity in marketing. Quote, Persado's technology is incredibly promising. It rewrote copy and headlines that a marketer using subjective judgment and their experience likely wouldn't have. So very soon they'll be writing headlines too. That's one of the things I always think that I have a skill, where I'm able to put headlines together, or it takes a skill, I should say. It takes some kind of a skill. I'm not as good as the AI, obviously, but the AI will be writing headlines for news articles soon. They'll be doing it better than editors. Not far away. It's here, basically. They already say it's better. Humans like it better. Humans like what AI does better than what humans do right now. It's crazy. Can't believe I'm going to be reading ads that were written by computers. All right, so that's something that's already happening. We know about the evil AI and the chatbots and the demonic AI and the ghosts in the machine. We also know about chemtrails, geoengineering. We know they've been doing it for a long time. Harvard's been talking about it. John Brennan talked about it at the CFR. He talked about stratospheric SAIs, stratospheric atmospheric injections, I believe, in order to cool the Earth. This is from Nature today. Harvard creates advisory panel to oversee solar geoengineering project. So they're officially doing it. Scientists will inject particles of calcium carbonate into the atmosphere and study their effects on incoming sunlight. There you go. They're finally, what does they say at the CIA? The CIA, usually they'll come out and let you know about something after they've been doing it for 20 years already. We think that's the game plan, is that now they're slowly introducing us the idea as if it's a brand new idea that they're testing. And then we'll find out later that they've been doing it for a long time. Plans to test a technique that would cool the planet by blocking sunlight are one step closer to reality. Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts has created an external advisory panel to examine the potential ethical, environmental, and geopolitical impacts of this geoengineering project, which has been developed by the university's researchers. Known as the Stratospheric Controlled Perturbation Experiment, SCOPE-X, the project would involve the release of calcium carbonate particles from a steerable balloon some 20 kilometers above the southwestern United States. 20 kilometers up in the southwestern United States. SCOPE-X scientists hope to release small plumes of about 100 grams of calcium carbonate into the upper atmosphere and then study how the particles disperse. The scientists will also watch for changes in atmospheric chemistry and how light scatters. I don't know. If that's not what they're already doing, then I don't know what they're doing up there. That stuff blocks out the sun. It's definitely from those planes. It's definitely not condensation. So it would be great if somebody would just tell us, what they're doing up there, since they're obviously doing it all over the freaking world. Here's a podcast about it from yesterday. So this is all this stuff coming out in the open. Transhumanism, geoengineering. This is called, from yesterday, a podcast called Sun Shady Business, the Politics of Geoengineering. I didn't listen to the podcast. That's from The Economist, though. All right. Thanks, everybody, for being here. I'm going to be going to phone calls. I just wanted to give you one report on Bitcoin, which is that China has put out something saying they basically that was complimentary of Bitcoin. This article from Forbes from yesterday is titled, "China Could Be About to Throw Its Weight Behind Bitcoin." Now, the state-owned Bank of China, the world's fourth biggest bank by assets, has posted a pro-Bitcoin infographic on its website, explaining the history of Bitcoin and how cryptocurrencies work. Shortly after Bitcoin was legally recognized by a Chinese court, finding the cryptocurrency should be considered digital property. Now, this is an about-face for China, which has banned trading Bitcoin on exchanges. People still buy it there, but they can't do it on exchanges legally. That didn't crash the value of Bitcoin, although we could argue about what the reasons were for the last correction. But this is good news. It's good news. I think everybody's trying to get away from the dollar. People realize that Bitcoin is a real thing, that it's limited in supply, and should be viewed as real digital property. Now, they say it's not money. It's not legal to use as money. But they suggest that it's real digital property. And that is what Bitcoin is. It is a real thing. As real as toothpaste. Bitcoin. Same as silver and gold, I would say. Same as having silver or gold in your hand. Bitcoin, if you have it, everybody can tell you will have it forever, unless you send it to somebody else or somebody gets your keys. That will be your Bitcoin, and everybody will agree it's your Bitcoin. Everybody in the world will say, that's your Bitcoin. You can do what you want with it. That's how it works. That's how the blockchain works. That's how the distributed ledger works. Everybody agrees that that's your money until the end of time. All right, I'm going to take phone calls. It's 3:18 p.m. Pacific time. So check your watch if you're planning to call in. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll tell you right now, this is not live. You can watch the live show at 2 p.m. Pacific time, my time, 5 p.m. Eastern time, daily on DLive at dlive.tv/lifttheveil. And there is a reward system there on DLive where you can purchase Lino, which is a cryptocurrency of sorts. It runs on a blockchain. You can purchase it, and then you can donate it to the content creator during the stream in the form of diamonds, Nichiginis, ninjats. And it works out right. If you buy it on the desktop, that's the best way to buy it. Ice cream cones, I should have mentioned. Lemons. Gray Moon, thanks for the diamond. Careful you don't give diamonds unless you're at a stoplight. You say you're driving. We'll see you tomorrow. And then we also accept, what do they call it? Offerings. We also suggest accept offerings by cryptocurrency, and we list our Bitcoin and LiteCoin address in the description for everything, including on YouTube, I believe. This is Nathan. You're on the air.
Hey, Nathan. What you doing?
Hey, what's up?
Nathan, not much. This is the guy who got butt ran by Tony Podesta, the basement of.
Oh yeah. Hey, what's going on? I get that
not
joke.
A mood,
I don't know if I don't know if everybody's gonna get that joke and appreciate it, but I get it.
Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe the ones that have been around a while.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
right.
Not a while, but that were there when you called in a few times.
Anyway, what's on your mind?
But yeah, dude, just a podcast listener. Shoot a call every now and then. Wanted to say what's up. What are you guys talking about today?
Oh, what are we talking about today? Okay, cool. You're a podcast listener. Today we talked about Alan Dershowitz and the latest piece on him in the New Yorker, which is really extensive and is probably going to do some damage to him in relation to Jeffrey Epstein. Talked about transhumanism, and the Vatican being involved in it. And then we talked about, and then a little AI, and then geoengineering and solar shield, chemtrails basically. And then at the very beginning of the show, talked about YouTube and, censorship and fights against censorship and some news that was in the news. So what's on your mind?
Hey, quick question. Have you ever heard of, I know you have. I've heard you mention it. Project Mayhem?
Yeah, Project Mayhem 2012. I did some coverage on that.
Now, was Cappy tied to that at all? Is Cappy, as far as you know, or does anybody have any info with Cappy being tied in with Project Mayhem?
I think some people may have made attempts to do that. I mean, Project Mayhem is kind of, I don't know whether to call it a LARP or kind of an ARG, I guess, where it's not a real thing. So, it's more of like an art project, pretty much. Mm-hmm. So for anybody to be tied up in all my research, I've never seen a real cult around Project Mayhem. It's like I said, it's more like a work of panic art,
Yeah.
So
and
more than
what
anything.
about the Game 23?
The Game 23 I'm not as familiar with, but I've seen, I know Thomas Schoenberger suggested the Game 23 or Red Triangle might be involved. But I have to take anything he says, with a good grain of salt. But Quinn Michaels has talked about the Game 23, and I should ask him about it. I think it was an ARG of some sort that involved some of the regular components of these ARGs, which is like getting into occult knowledge and messing and doing LARPs or running mind games on people. But I don't know when the Game 23 existed. I wasn't really doing research contemporaneously, like when it was going on, so I couldn't tell you much about it. But I heard about it, and people like DeFango would know more about it, and I don't know if he was involved in it or not.
Yeah, and then the last question is, I was driving home from Wyoming the other week, and I popped a couple Adderall, so I was listening to your podcast on 2 times speed. It was fucking epic,
Great.
And somebody called in and said that you were linked up in this weird conspiracy, some weird shit, and it was like a guy that didn't know a lot about it, and you had a little information. What was that all about? You know what I'm talking about?
No, not specifically. I mean, a lot of people do have conspiracy theories about me being linked up to stuff, but I can't recall the specific phone call.
Yeah, I wish I remembered more about it, but it was something like, I don't know. If I remember it, I'll come back and leave a voicemail. But I'll let you get to other callers. Dude.
All right.
Just want to call and say what's up, and
cool.
Let you know if anybody out there listens to podcasts, make sure to leave a review, and I think those help out in the podcast ratings for sure.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Where do you listen, on Apple?
On Apple, yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, cool. Thanks.
It always throws your new one up there, and so
cool.
Yeah, it's my daily little driving, deal.
Perfect. Well, that's great. I'm glad you're listening to it.
Cool. Right on, Nathan. Take care.
Thanks, man. See ya. Yeah, that's cool. I do enjoy the podcast. I had an email from somebody today who's a podcast listener, too. You can subscribe, then you can download. Wow. This is Nathan. You're on the air.
Do you often feel like hurting yourself?
How weird. I think that's this guy, Lowe's1. It's really an inappropriate question. That's not a nice thing to ask somebody. Obsessed with me. Totally obsessed. My haters, some of them are really some of my best listeners in a way. They listen to every single second of my show. And then, call in to ask me if I ever think about hurting myself, I believe. It's not very nice. 650 Gay Taxi, 650-429-8294. Stuff is definitely going on in LARP land. I've been trying to follow it. You know that Marcus Conti has been following the LARPs? He actually tunes in just because he's doing research on it. But you guys wouldn't even know what's going on between the various channels. This is Nathan. You're on the air. Hello.
Hey, what's up, man? Hey. This is actually Skylar from the Cracker Beer.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, another podcast listener. I actually wanted to call in about the transhumanism thing because I just recently read this book by Wayne McCroy. I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but he wrote a book called The Autism Epidemic, and it's Transhumanism's Dirty Little Secret. And so that was one of your subjects on the show today. I actually made the live show for once. So, but yeah, whenever it comes to doing all this, as far as like the vaccines go, because he has two kids that were vaccinated. Both got autism, but they're more on the functional side of the scale, the higher functionality side of the scale, instead of, the lower end, which, where kids have a lot of tics and, harm themselves and have to wear helmets and stuff. But what is interesting is all of the research that he's done in this book. Again, it's called The Autism Epidemic, Transhumanism's Dirty Little Secret. I'm not really trying to plug him all that much. It was just ironic that I'm currently reading this book. But he talks about how the need for this, as far as it's linked to transhumanism and vaccines and autism, is the fact that with the autism epidemic, they're trying to get the more sound autistic people because their mind operates much like an AI functions, because the reasoning behind that is kids with autism tend to have much less emotional attachments, much like an AI system would have, of course, because and the reason why they want that is because the analytics of them being able to decipher critical information is very difficult through emotional attachments. So, I'm just going to leave you with that. I wanted to hear your thoughts on that. And, let's just hear your answer to that and turn my my speaker back up, and then I'll let you get to another caller. All right, man?
Let me ask you a question. Is autism being used to influence transhumanism, or what's the thesis of the book?
The thesis of the book, I have it right in front of me here for reference. And honestly, I can just give you a quick, the synopsis on the back of the book if you want it. But it's basically he's trying to bridge the gap between links in transhumanism and autism, and what the relationship is, and what our imperative future may look like, and why this just goes hand in hand. And also why the prevalence of autism is just skyrocketing at alarming rates, and what could be causing the epidemic, if there's a hidden agenda behind it, because he says that through his research, there most certainly is. And that's pretty much what the book's about.
Interesting. Well, I'll maybe have to check it out. I'm interested. It seems like they're really bringing this transhumanism thing mainstream right now, even though,
the fact that you even shared a link from like Vatican News or whatever it was, is interesting because it's something that's very scientific. And as far as, you would think the Vatican and Christian belief systems doesn't really blend well with, the scientific community. So they say, or, so it appears. So it is weird that, there's that link where there's a push for it on many fronts, not, just Silicon Valley and Elon Musk and, that group, but also, fronts from all over the place. And the fact that it's a possibility that autism may have a link to realizing that the way an autistic mind works and trying to figure out the link and right where they want to get a person's brain so unemotionally attached so that it can actually be more wired to AI with less hindrance of emotion.
Interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah, again, it's the autism epidemic, and he just links all of his research into how this could be transhumanism's, quote, dirty little secret.
Weird. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for the info.
That's cool, man. For sure. Again, it's Wayne McCroy. I think everyone should.
Yeah, I was able to find it on Amazon. So, cool.
All right, man. Enjoy the show again. Maybe I'll call in some other time, but yeah, this is a big topic because from everywhere we look, it seems like that's where future is what it's going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man. Again, enjoy the show. Long-time podcast listener. Glad I get to make it live every once in a while. So
cool.
Yeah, man. Great show again. So have a good evening.
Thanks for the call. I appreciate it. See ya.
Yes, sir.
He just has a little trouble saying goodbye, but I wanted to keep him on because he was nice. 2 podcast listeners today. I can't tell for sure how many people listen to the podcast. I don't know for sure. I think all I can tell is how many people watch it on SoundCloud, which is soundcloud.com/altnews. But then the previous listener listens on Apple Podcasts. And it is difficult, but please, if you do listen on Apple Podcasts, and gosh, they don't make it easy, but if you could find a way to comment on my channel, if you can do it on iTunes on your computer. What was I going to say? Well, it is interesting because this lady wanted to help her kid with autism. It's a joke I either heard once or made up about QAnon was that it's a way for AI. No, it was definitely not something I made up. But so this is a thing that was suggested, I believe as a joke, that QAnon was made so that AI could learn how autists think. And that's why it's on 8chan, so it can see how autists solve problems and learn from them. So maybe that's for real. That's, I guess, what this book maybe suggests. It's crazy. Autism and transhumanism. And also, before I take phone calls, because I'm getting a number of calls, I also had one other comment on that here. The ADHD is kind of on the, more and more people have ADHD too, which is kind of on the they have a lot of the similar problems to autism, and the FDA just approved this thing that hooks up to your head for ADHD for patients 7 to 12 years old. It's called Monarch External Trigeminal Nerve Stimulation System. It's a non-drug option for treatment of ADHD. I saw a whole special on this on TruthStream Media. TruthStream Media did a whole special on this. And it gives you electronic pulses to your brain. The cell phone-sized device generates a low-level electrical pulse and connects via a wire to a small patch that adheres to a patient's forehead just above the eyebrows and should feel like a tingling sensation on the skin. The system delivers a low-level electrical stimulation to the branches of the trigeminal nerve, which sends therapeutic signals to the parts of the brain thought to be involved in ADHD. They don't even know how it works. It says the exact mechanism is not known. And they don't know if it works. But it's approved, and it can be marketed for ADHD. Electrical shock therapy. So, and that, like I said, ADHD has some similar things on the scale down to autism or Asperger's. People accuse me of having Asperger's. Sometimes they spell it wrong, though, too. This is Nathan. You're on the air.
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Excellent. Where do we start, man? You got so many interesting topics today.
Great.
So have you heard of so you know there's a presidential candidate running on the transhumanist agenda ticket, right?
Oh, they have their own party?
Yeah, Zoltan is his name.
Oh, he's the guy that wrote this article. He's the guy that wrote this article that I referred to today.
Yeah, so he's actually running for president.
Zoltan Istvan.
Yeah, he like snowboards down volcanoes and stuff.
Weird.
Pretty trippy, dude.
Huh, weird. Zoltan Istvan, 2020. Wow. He's a straight transhumanist, and that's the agenda he's going to be running on for the Transhumanist Party. Wow.
He started when Trump was running is when he started putting himself out there as a candidate, but he said, I won't take it serious until 2020.
Wow. Well,
so
man,
I've been with him since 2016, I think.
They've been rolling this stuff out. What how do you feel about the transhumanist agenda?
It's definitely, I think it has like a lot of biblical implications as far as being, so if you follow if you look at things from a biblical perspective, you could see how it says, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be, when the Lord returns. So I think it's part of that whole grooming process. In order for us to go back to living longer lives and being like it was in the days of Noah, this has to happen.
So
you know what I mean?
You think it's actually a biblical, so you think this is kind of like what some of the Jews are doing to bring on their particular end of times? You think this actually has to do with fulfilling prophecy?
Yeah, they're preparing the way. They have to make the planet the way it was, whether artificially or naturally.
Interesting. Well, that's interesting theory.
Yeah, I mean, if you put the pieces together, you could see that that's what this is. They're terraforming the planet to mimic the way it was at the time when Babylon was, when all these things were taking place. They're trying to bring it back to that age. So you're going to see, chimeras, human-animal hybrids, attempts, men and women converging to one sex, the transhumanism agenda. So in order to extend people's aging process, all these things are connected. You can't have certain things in existence and still maintain a sense of self. That's part of what it is. Is like, so when they roll out this transhumanism, there's another passage where it says something to the effect of like, the beast will breathe life into a statue, right? And I've always interpreted that as an artificial intelligence, the statue. So that'll be part of it is when they breathe life into the statue and they activate the AI, and then it'll work wonders. It'll do signs and magic, right? It'll do these wondrous things, heal people and all kinds of stuff in the image of the beast. And that's the promise of transhumanism, right? Is it'll use technology to heal people and extend their life, cure things that normally couldn't be cured. And that's when you get into the autism portion of it, is in order to make us compatible, right? So we have to be compatible with the machine so it won't destroy us. So there's two parts to that. So either it sees us as a threat, or it sees us as a nuisance, like a weed. Like you're trying to grow a perfectly groomed lawn, you know, while a weed isn't necessarily bad, it doesn't look right, you know, so we get rid of it. It's not part of the groomed lawn. So we have to be a part of the clean blade of grass, right? And that's where autism comes into play, is we need to communicate and function like a robot, right? So it sees us as not being a competitor or something foreign. It's like, okay, I can work with this thing. It thinks the way I think.
Wow, that's a wild theory. I mean, it's weird for me to have gotten a few phone calls in a row and already talked about this autism and AI thing. So you really think so? It's in order to make people think more like robots, we're becoming more autistic?
Yeah, so you'll have a more mechanical way of viewing the world and processing information. Wow. And then also it'll prevent your mind from fracturing when they start incorporating outside information. So where right now when you think about something, you think about it in certain processes. So you're like, I'm going to do this. Certain things happen involuntarily and certain things happen intentionally. Mm-hmm. So you're thinking about things, you're imagining how it's going to happen, and then you execute, right? Well, imagine if that was coming from an outside source, right? Mm-hmm. So the first step would be to remove your inner monologue and to remove your ability to create images in your own head. Because if you have an inner monologue, how is that going to compute with the other inner monologue? They're going to fight with each other. So you remove the inner monologue and you create an artificial monologue, and then you remove the images that you produce in your head in order to process and solve problems. And then you create an artificial one, which would be the internet or whatever you want to call it, creates those images for you. And it tells you what the factors are. So like if I want to make a sandwich, I can imagine, hey, I'm going to grab some bread, I'm going to grab some peanut butter, I'm going to get a knife, I'm going to spread it on the bread, and I'm going to make a sandwich, right? These are all things I can imagine the entire consequences of my actions before actually doing the act. But imagine you have an artificial process doing it at the same time. It can create like illusions, and the next thing you know, you're making a peanut butter sandwich, but it's got like roast beef on it and all kinds of shit that you don't want on there. You know what I mean? Like,
mm-hmm. Well, so sure. The AI, I mean, you're suggesting that the AI could tell you to do the wrong thing, right?
Or, they can be in conflict with each other.
Or would be in conflict with what you were really thinking, unless you're autistic. Is that
well, yeah,
the argument?
That's one of the things. People are saying you have NPCs, right? Mm-hmm. NPCs have no inner monologue.
But autistic but I don't know if that's true of autistic people though necessarily. I guess that's where I was missing that.
And then they have this other condition where people they don't have any images in their head. They can't imagine anything. I forget what the condition's called, but you can look it up. Just the inability to create images in your mind. So they go all day with no inner monologue or without imagining anything. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's like, what? Like, how would you even exist? But there's people that have that issue. One of them is actually he works in DreamWorks Entertainment. He's an artist, so he can look at an image, make an image, and duplicate it, but he can't imagine in his head a new image.
Interesting.
So you know what I mean? And a person like that would probably function, you know, to cohabitate with a machine pretty easily, because it's just he can receive the information. He's not going to fight with what it's saying.
Interesting.
And then going into the other half of it with the biblical portion in the Vatican, I think that goes back to, you know, terraforming the earth to be like it was in the days of Noah. They have to. So if you think about what Lucifer, Satan, or whatever you want to call him is trying to accomplish, it seems to me like it's this is his chance to be like God, right? So he's trying to recreate everything that you could possibly have with God, but on an artificial level. So people may not realize it, but they can communicate spiritually and emotionally through their heart and their mind with God, you know? So how do you create that same connection, but artificially? You know, we're kind of doing it right now. I'm talking to you, and you're basically, because of my Bluetooth, you're a voice in my head. You know what I mean? So these are all concepts in like magic, you know, thousands of years ago that you know, if someone saw me, they'd be like, oh, who's this weirdo talking to himself? You know, but I'm actually communicating to hundreds of people all at one time. And when you put it into that perspective, that's what transhumanism is. It's this slow working of the human mind and the human experience to where it's all one consciousness, one artificial consciousness. And that's what God is, one consciousness that hopefully we'll return to.
Okay, so are you saying that it's because you were mentioning that it's the beast introducing this system and creating the miracles, but then you're saying that hopefully we return to this universal state? Are you saying hopefully we return to it through the use of artificial intelligence and transhumanism?
No, not through artificial intelligence. Naturally, like when we die and our spirit ascends, we will be recreated in a new body and a new mind. Right. If you take the mark of the beast and you inherit this beast system, become a transhumanist being, right? And you lose yourself, and you lose what makes you human, you give it up to become something else, then you cannot reconnect to the source.
It's like the Borg, but in the Borg, like Commander Picard was able to disconnect himself. Was it because he never really got fully integrated with the Borg? He still had his individuality a little bit. Can't remember.
It's possible. I mean, that's like 7 of 9 was the same way. Somehow they reversed the process, and then, you know, she was able to reconnect with humanity. But they never really became, you know, maybe Picard did, but some of them never actually returned back to who they were.
Right.
They were a shell of the human that they once were. They had no emotion. Everything was very logical. They processed everything, you know, very linear, or from one step to the last. You know, there was no in between. It's like that's kind of like the way Spock is. Like, it's hard for him to make a decision that's illogical, you know?
Right. Doshi has that problem too.
And that's part of what faith is making decisions that are based on faith, not, you know, logic, really.
Right. Intuition or insight.
Yeah, because you have a mind, you have a heart, and you have a stomach, right? So your heart is a place of love. That's how you connect to God. Your mind is like the reptilian side of you. That's what helps you navigate this existence, right? Its main purpose is to help you navigate things safely. And then your gut is what tells you, hey, don't mess around with that person. He's probably a pedophile. You know what I mean? Like, you just get think you're like, that dude's a weirdo. I don't fucking trust him. That comes from your, and these are all like, I guess, chakras within your body that help you navigate and stay safe on your whatever this weird journey is. You know what I mean? And so where you have these fruits of the spirit, you have these gifts given to you naturally. There's people, they've been basically bred into you or told that they don't exist and it's all artificial, you know. And now they're going to try to completely separate you from those. So if you give up those gifts or those fruits of the spirit, there's no getting them back. You know what I mean? You're connected to that source or that thing, whatever the beast becomes, the beast system. And that's your choice. You have that free choice to make that choice. And the ones that do will be cut off forever. And it's not going to be an easy choice. I mean, it could come down to, hey, you can integrate with the system, or you can be terminated because you're incompatible.
Right. Interesting. Definitely a dystopian future, huh? But will we have the choice? Will we have the choice whether to participate with the program or not, or will we be eliminated if we refuse to participate?
I'm pretty sure that's what the Bible says. It says that they will have open execution. People will be getting decapitated at the refusal of the mark of the beast.
Interesting. Well, I hope that doesn't happen to me.
I mean, I'll embrace it. To me, it's like I was raised to be absent with the body is to be present with the Lord. So
that's right.
I've never had any problem, you know, giving up this thing, because I've always felt that way, that I'm literally like piloting a flesh robot. You know what I mean? Like I've had experiences where I've actually seen outside my body, so it kind of like gave me a different perspective.
It's like, yeah, well, it's like in Daniel, right? He was told he couldn't worship his God or he'd be thrown to the lions, and he went ahead and did it anyway, right? So I guess that's what you're supposed to do.
Well, I appreciate the time, man. And,
thanks.
Subject, and I definitely watched that Zoltan guy because I don't think that's the last you've heard of him.
Okay.
I think he kind of for a while, but he's definitely gonna come back or support somebody else because he's kind of getting long in the tooth. So I don't know if he's still got the appeal he had.
Interesting. Well, I'll look into him. He wrote the article that I was reading from today, just coincidentally. So maybe he's on topic right now. All right, cool. Thanks for the call.
Yep. You have a good day.
All right, see you. It was some kind of a swing that you heard, some kind of a swing with some kind of a child in it, a human child, it sounded like, or a very realistic AI. One or the other, hard to say. Thanks, Cracker Beer Show. You called into the show. Thanks for the Ninja Guinea. It's a baby swing. Yeah, we're talking about the Borg, pre-programming from science fiction. The Borg was always the coolest. That was the best. I think that was the best Star Trek movie. Was the one where they went First Contact. I think that might have been the best. This is Nathan. You're on the air.
Crazy.
Hello? That was all he had? That was it? I even didn't hang up right away, which I should have done. I thought First Contact was really good. Well, because I'm a Next Generation guy, really. I really like Next Generation. I never really was into the original show. But I thought the one where they traveled back in time to when we first launched faster than the speed of light. That was a pretty good movie. I can't remember if that was the one where Data got the emotion chip. That one was pretty good too. When Data got the emotion chip, that might have been related to the Borg, so it might have been the same movie. Jean-Luc Picard. What do they quote? He's after the Borg, right? He has he needs revenge against the Borg, and it makes him lose his sanity because he wants revenge so bad it endangers his ship and his crew. And she quotes Moby Dick, or he quotes Moby Dick, I believe. If his chest had been a cannon, he would have fired his heart upon it, I think he says. He smashes his ships. If his chest had been a cannon, he would have shot his heart upon it. Let's see. Oh, here. This is a great scene.
You son of a bitch.
This really isn't the time.
Okay, I don't know jack about the 24th century, but everybody out there thinks that staying here and fighting the Borg is suicide. They're just afraid to come in here and say it.
The crew is accustomed to following my orders.
They're probably accustomed to your orders making sense.
None of them understand the Borg as I do.
None of them understand the Borg as I do.
No one can.
What is that supposed to mean?
6 years ago, they assimilated me into their collective. I had their cybernetic devices implanted throughout my body.
He might be autistic. You know, Captain Picard might be autistic. It's possible. He kind of does tell it like it is, like an autist. And he did get assimilated into the Borg, too.
I was linked to the hive mind. Every trace of individuality erased. I was one of them. So you can imagine, my dear, I have a somewhat unique perspective on the Borg, and I know how to fight them. If you will excuse me, I have work to do.
I can't play the whole clip. I can't play the whole clip, but it gets really good. That's our future. The beast system, the Borg system. Okay, I think we might be done with phone calls for today, but we'll see. 650 Gay Taxi, you have one more chance. What a great clip that was. I'm just afraid of playing too much of it. I might play it for myself after the show is over, though. I love that scene. He came and spoke at my university. He's very arrogant. Stewart, right? Why am I'm even forgetting. Patrick Stewart. Yeah, he came and spoke at my school. But, holy cow. Sorry on the podcast. This is Nathan. You're on the air.
Hey, it's me again.
Hey, what's up?
So, you made me think. Hollywood has also been pushing this. Multiple shows and movies, like the new Predators movie. I don't know if you saw that one. Mm-hmm. The main character, his son was autistic, and the whole theme of the movie was that autism is the new evolution of humanity. That
really?
Somehow, and that Predator respected the kid because he saw that he had more potential than any other human.
Interesting.
And once I saw that, I went back and watched a couple other shows. I wish I could remember the name. One is a Netflix show where they had autistic characters, and at some point they all alluded to the fact that autism was the next evolution of humanity.
Interesting.
That's what I wanted to say.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool.
Bye.
Thanks. Yeah. Well, people who are, there are some people out there. You can't call people autistic because people might take it the wrong way, but there are some people out there who exhibit those traits who are pretty awesome. No, I can't mention it. But it is a unique kind of power. Autists don't fit in. They're interesting They're good problem solvers. That's why they talk about them solving puzzles on 8chan and stuff. They are good problem solvers because they get rid of the emotion thing, and they tend to just kind of say things how they are, and also are a little bit reluctant to change their beliefs, a little bit stubborn when it comes to telling the truth and stuff. Not easily able to manipulate people and things, sort of. All right, we had some great topics today. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. You know when the show is on DLive, DLive.tv. Thanks for the top donors today are Crack a Beer, Mel C. Thanks for supporting the show, everybody who does. If you're not on DLive and you want to support the show, you can give super chats on YouTube, but you can also just donate direct to paypal.me/lifttheveil or patreon.com/lifttheveil. You can visit our shop, truthclothing.io. We're 100% run on your support. 100%. We do not get paid for LARPing. That's what we can guarantee for you. All right. What do I have to play you guys out with? Well, I think I'm going to end the show just on a regular end of show note. I appreciate you guys tuning in. And I will see you tomorrow live, 2 p.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Eastern time. For now, from Doshi, that is what it is.